Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is the podcast that goes along with blog number 96 called Q-Tip, Quit Taking It Personally. So let me begin this by saying that I am no clinical psychologist, but I certainly have made a lot of observations over the years. Allow me to espouse my opinion about one of the major causes of people's misery today, and that is this: you care far too much about what other people think. Seriously, give this some thought. Is there anyone who really knows you? I mean really deep down, every single thought you have, every belief you operate under. The answer is no. Only you have that depth of understanding of yourself. With that in mind, how can you give so much credence to a stranger or even a friend making a statement, a joke, or even go as far as an insult about you? Their 30,000-foot view of you and your life is by no means a real measure or understanding of you as a whole. So why do you care so much about what they think? You shouldn't. And if you want to be free of all that judgment and subsequent self-loathing, do this: quit taking it personally. Now, this is easier said than done. I get that. But the best way to get over some of the issues that we all wrestle with in our own heads is to stop for a second. Think about a couple of things before you take that comment or that slight against you to heart. Number one, consider who said it. Were they just trying to be funny and you're being too sensitive? Are they just a jerk who says that kind of things to others as well, maybe to make themselves feel better? As the old saying goes, there are two ways to build up the biggest house in town: tear everybody else's down or focus on building your own. Many people take the easier route, which is to tear everybody else's down. Number two, they said versus you heard. How often have you overheard somebody say something to someone and then the other person extract one bad thing out of that entire statement to dwell on? Your own interpretation of things weighs heavily on what you take from what someone else says. Number three, do they know the whole story? Like I said before, your whole story. Do they really know what the hell you're all about? What really makes you tick? And know you deep down to the core? I doubt it. If you remember back to high school, maybe in a particular biology or other similar class, when you learned about our ancestors and how they operated in tribes or groups, this ingrained need to fit into a larger society was necessary for survival. Everyone in the tribe had to have a place in the circle, contribute to the greater good, and fit in. If you didn't, you were ostracized and you probably died. In our modern world today, this deep-seated anxiety has been amplified by differences in class, income, race, religion, and a lot of other factors, all of which are out of somebody's control. Advertising and marketing preys on this, ensuring you that if you had a better car or you just drank the right beer, you would be way more popular. It has led to more and more excess spending, empty feelings, and isolation for no good or valid reason. If you want to see the darker, selfish, self-righteous lack of virtue mankind displays on a regular basis, please reference September 10th, 2001. If you walked around New York City on that day, people were business as usual in every sense of the New Yorker word. Cars were honking horns, people were yelling at other drivers. On the street, people were bumping into one another as they walked on the crowded sidewalks without so much as a word of apology, or in some cases even looking up. Everyone was trying to keep to themselves, get through their day, and make it to the weekend. Now, fast forward one day forward and see how different not just that city, but the entire world reacted. An airplane gets flown into the World Trade Center, and suddenly every New Yorker becomes part of the same team. Total strangers sacrifice their own lives in effort to save others or help somebody run to safety. These were citizens, not police and fire municipal employees that I'm talking about. It took a catastrophic event for the societal bullshit to get set aside, but it was a clear demonstration that we can still stand as one, and that the car you drive or whose brand of shoes you wear doesn't mean shit. It is an example, I am aware, and maybe an extreme one, but my point is this: when the shit hits the fan, none of the crap that you worry about really matters. In those situations, you'll lose your own judgment of others and vice versa. So my question is this: Why wait for a disaster to rise above that daily crap? Why not employ that same mentality all the time? If you really want to live a free life and have your mind be free of these kind of things, you have to learn to live above that petty bullshit having any effect on you. You have to Q-tip. You have to quit taking everything so personally. That person who cut you off in traffic on the way to work did not get up this morning thinking they were going to seek you out on the freeway and swerve in front of you. Janie from accounting didn't plan on making a comment about your shoes before she ever walked into the office. Some people only feel better about themselves when they make others feel bad. It's screwed up, I get it. But don't play into it by believing it. They don't know you and where you've been and where you're headed. Nobody does. So when you find yourself in those situations, step back, take a deep breath, and realize that the world is not out to get you and that no one is accurately assessing your looks or abilities. We all have different preferences, strengths, weaknesses, and everybody is fighting at least one battle that you're not aware of. All of that dictates their behavior, and you have to keep that in mind when somebody makes a comment that hurts your feelings. Let that shit go. I wish you luck in your endeavors. So, some additional thoughts about that. As the world continues to see the protests about racism and everything else in between, we are all subject to either having our every thought be blasted over social media or reserving our comments for the things that really get us fired up. The problem with this approach is that there's always somebody who will disagree with you. It doesn't matter how sound your logic is. And therefore, you are open for the possibility of having somebody outright attack you, insult you, try to get you canceled, whatever the case may be. So the obvious action to take then is to take no action, to keep all of that inside, to not take the chance of sharing your opinions with others, having difficult conversations, maybe learning a thing or two from someone else's point of view, that sort of thing. You really have to keep in mind that everybody has had a different life, a different set of circumstances and experiences, and none of us can see things exactly the same. There may be generalities and commonalities that we can find and agree on, but nobody is going to have exactly the same opinion based on their life and their experiences as you do, because your life has been different. And that in and of itself makes it difficult to find common ground. But the real thing that we should be striving for is accepting everybody's point of view as their own, and the most common logic and reasonable approaches will rise to the top, and that will become the norms that we live in. The problem with social media these days is that the fringe 5% of a group that's making the most noise seems to be the ones who get the most attention, even though they're the smallest percentage of the majority out there. That seems to get lost in the shuffle very easily. So keep in mind when you're reading stuff online or you're seeing a protest that's taking place either in your hometown or somewhere else around the globe, keep in mind that that is a small cross-section of the world in general. Not everybody has that same opinion. The things that people are protesting may very well be in need of change. Some of the things out there today are way off base in what is being demanded or asked of the rest of society. As a common group, those things will get sorted out eventually. But on a personal level, you can't turn on the news and see what's going on out there, or tune into social media, post something, have somebody that's a complete stranger or even a friend of yours disagree with your opinion, and have that cut into your own self-esteem and self-worth. That is very, very damaging. Stop taking it personally. You have to be able to let things go, take a deep breath, pause for a second before you react, let that tweet set overnight before you respond to it, or don't respond to it at all. Remember, you can't argue with stupid, so there's an awful lot of arguments that just aren't worth having. Smile and nod your head and let that person suffer in their own trappings of those kind of things. Don't get pulled into it. It's probably not a game you can win, and it certainly is not worth the effort you're going to extend. With those thoughts in mind, I wish you luck in your endeavors.